The African National Congress is holding its NEC meeting this weekend. Top of the agenda is Jacob Zuma, corruption and the issue of step-aside guidelines. The party's spokesperson, Phule Mabe, says there is a framework on how this has to be executed. For an update, I'm now joined by eNCA reporter Khayelihle Khumalo. Kaya, so lots on the agenda for the ANC this weekend.
Well, precisely, Anli, and we do understand that the meeting started exactly at 10 o'clock this morning, and there was a report that was expected to be tabled to try and understand the whole issue around the step-aside resolution. We do understand that the ANC, all the way back to the Nazareth conference in 2017, had adopted a resolution to that effect. So now they're trying to amplify that, and we know that this has really become a very contentious issue in light of the corruption charge and, of course, the trial by the current Secretary General of the ANC. So hence, it's become a very topical issue. But apart from that, the issue, of course, of the defiance, pronouncement by former President Jacob Zuma. So we do understand that the ANC will try to bring the centrality and the importance of, just the rule of law in South Africa, especially from the very apex court, like the Constitutional Court. Apart from that, the issue of the economic recovery as well. It was a very central issue during the State of the Nation address. So that's also going to come across as well quite strongly. But also another very vitally important issue within the ANC is the issue of the unity within the party. It's always been raised within the ANC. So once again, the highest decision-making body of the ANC will try and emphasize that. But Anli, let's take a listen to the ANC national spokesperson, Phule Mabe, really elaborating further.
Now, in this NEC, we ought to now be looking on our own organizational issues, having had all these different sessions and engagements that I had spoken to, and then begin to say, how is the organization going to function under this new normal? The conferences that we are expected to have later in the year, things like organizational platforms like the National General Council. Are we going to be having those? If we do, what kind of format are they going to be taking? Electoral reforms, what is the take of the ANC on all of those? Critical, Kaya, is also the issue that is already out there in the public domain. We spoke about this last year on the issues of the step-aside guidelines, where the officials are expected to report to the National Executive Committee this morning on that work, so that there is an agreed upon framework on how the whole notion of step-aside has to be executed by the structure. Another issue of public interest is the issue of the intention expressed by former President Jacob Zuma around issues of the Zondo Commission. Of course, there would be reflection on those, because the ANC NEC does tend to also look into issues that are out there in the public. And because, we are a leader of society, we've got to reflect on those and then be able to say what kind of direction do we believe or think should be taken.
Lots of talk set to happen, but implementation is entirely reliant on resolutions. So what sort of resolutions can we expect to come out of the ANC's NEC meeting this weekend?
Well, that's right, Anli. And of course, it's happening under very extraordinary circumstances. It's a virtual session. Another issue that the ANC NEC will have to look into is to whether will the NGC continue, in light of COVID-19 in South Africa. You hear now a lot of people are making some, a reference to the fact that we might be seeing the third wave of the pandemic. So that's another issue that they'll look at. But also when it comes to the local government as well. So the party has been making a lot of emphasis around the fact that the candidates that must be nominated must be fit and proper. So we expect something to that effect as well. But also, most importantly, when it comes to the issue of the former President Jacob Zuma once again. So there's a great deal of expectation for the party really to make it patently clear for the former president to make sure that he cooperates with the Zondo Commission of Inquiry. We do understand for numerous occasions the NEC has made clear commitment emphasizing to the ANC members, if they are implicated, to make sure that they cooperate and present themselves and adduce evidence before this particular structure. So we really expect quite a lot of strong emphasis to be made so that, the senior leaders as well set a very good example, the likes of former President Jacob Zuma. But we got an opportunity to speak to the political commentator, Lukhona Mnguni, and this is what he had to say.
ANC will want to stamp its authority on the centrality of the rule of law in our country, the need to respect the Constitution and to abide by the outcomes of our courts, particularly the Constitutional Court, and to ensure that the work of the State Capture Commission is done and enabled by those who are requested to appear before it to do so. I think that's the manner in which they will prevail on former President Jacob Zuma. Of course, we know that the Eastern Cape might move for suspension of the membership of former President Zuma. I don't see that happening. I think it would be too drastic a move. I just don't see it finding any enjoyment, even on those who disagree with former President Zuma, because you see, part of the problem that has happened in the ANC is that people treat problems of today with the fear that they too tomorrow might need some level of mercy from the ANC.
That was eNCA reporter Khayelihle Khumalo.